All right, when you hear the word blockchain, I'm going to bet your mind jumps straight to cryptocurrency, right? But look, that's just one really tiny application of a much, much bigger idea. So today, we're going to push past all that hype, we're going to get to the bottom of the foundational technology and find out why its real future might have almost nothing to do with digital money at all.
Okay, so to really get this, we've got to start with the core problem blockchain was trying to solve in the first place. I mean, think about it. We live in a world of copy-paste, right? Digital manipulation is everywhere. So how on earth do you create a digital record, something that is totally permanent, completely verifiable, and that everyone can trust without having to rely on some big central company or government to vouch for it?
And that question, that leads us right to the core promise of this whole technology. You know, this idea actually goes way back to 1991, if you can believe it. The original concept was to create a sort of digital notary, a system for timestamping documents so you could prove without a doubt that they hadn't been messed with or backdated.
So, what is a blockchain really? Well, at its absolute heart, it's just a special kind of database. People call it a distributed ledger, which sounds complicated, but just think of it like a digital record book, or maybe a shared notebook. It's literally a chain made of digital blocks, and each block holds some information. The really crucial part, though, is that this notebook is distributed. It's copied and spread out across a whole network of computers, and once something is written in that notebook, it becomes incredibly difficult to change. Okay, to see how that works, we need to peek under the hood and look at just one of these blocks. Each and every block has three key things inside it. First, you've got the data itself. This can be anything, really. Transaction details, medical info, you name it. Second, it has something called a hash. The best way to think of this is like a unique digital fingerprint for that specific block. And third, and this is the really clever part, it has the hash or the fingerprint of the block that came before it. This right here, this is the glue holding the entire chain together. So how does that simple structure create this fortress of security we're talking about? Well, the real magic is in that third piece, the hash of the previous block. It creates this amazing kind of digital domino effect. And that's what makes the whole chain so incredibly hard to tamper with. So picture a healthy, secure chain. It looks just like this. Every single block points back perfectly to the one before it. You get this beautiful, unbroken, verifiable sequence. Block 3 has the fingerprint of block 2. Block 2 has the fingerprint of block 1. You get the idea. Everything is neat, orderly, and connected. Okay, but now let's see what happens when someone tries to cheat the system. Let's say some hacker comes along and tries to change the data in that second block. Well, remember how the hash is a unique fingerprint of all the data inside? The second you change even a single comma, a single tiny piece of data, the block's hash, its fingerprint changes completely, instantly.
And here is the beautiful consequence of that. The new, tampered fingerprint of block 2, well, it no longer matches the link that block 3 was expecting. That chain is now broken. And because of that one break, every single block that comes after it is now invalid too. The whole chain, from that point on, just falls apart like a line of dominoes. The tampering isn't just detectable, it's glaringly obvious to absolutely everyone on the network.
But that's not even the whole story. There are a couple of other major security layers on top of this. There's something called proof of work. You can think of it as a really hard math puzzle that computers have to solve just to add a new block to the chain. It's designed to be slow, taking about 10 minutes for Bitcoin, for example. This makes it almost impossible for a hacker to go back, change a block, and then solve all the math puzzles for the rest of the chain faster than everyone else. And then there's the fact that the whole thing is distributed. Remember that shared notebook? It's copied across thousands of computers. So even if you manage to tamper with your copy, everyone else's copy would still be correct, and the network would just reject your version. It's like security in numbers.
Okay, so the digital record itself is about as secure as you can get. It's a digital fortress. But, and this is a huge but, this leads us to the technology's single biggest challenge. Its Achilles heel, if you will. And that problem is its connection, or lack of connection, to the real physical world.
And here's the critical question you have to ask. A blockchain is fantastic at making sure data, once it's on the chain, can never be changed. Perfect. But it has absolutely no way of knowing if the information that was put on the chain was actually true to begin with. This is the famous Oracle problem.
Let me give you some real-world examples, because this is really important. A blockchain can record, forever, that humanitarian aid was sent to a specific GPS coordinate. Awesome. But it can't tell you if that coordinate is a real distribution center or just an empty field. It can store a land title perfectly, but it has no idea if that piece of paper actually corresponds to a real plot of land. It's a system that's amazing at protecting digital truth, but it's completely blind to physical truth.
So figuring out how to solve this, how to bridge that massive gap between the clean, secure digital world and our messy, complicated physical world, well, that's the next great challenge for this technology. And the solution seems to be in creating some kind of trusted layer for real-world information, especially location information, geographic truth. And this is exactly where a platform like map.ca enters the picture. Now, it's really important to get this straight. Map.ca is not a blockchain company. They're what you might call a geographic trust infrastructure company. Their entire mission is to create a super reliable, community-verified map of the physical world, a layer of what we call ground truth that other systems, like blockchains, can actually rely on. So how do they build that trust? Well, think about something like Google Maps. It's amazing, but all that data is controlled by one single company. MapCafe flips that model on its head. It uses a community-owned approach. The data isn't controlled by any one entity. Instead, it's constantly being verified by a whole network of users who are spread out geographically. This decentralized way of doing things gets rid of that single point of failure and builds a much more resilient and frankly more trustworthy picture of what's actually out there in the real world. So what map.ca is really doing, in effect, is acting as a decentralized oracle for geographic truth. Remember that oracle problem? This is the solution. It's a system that can feed reliable, real-world data to a blockchain. It can say, yep, I can confirm that aid station actually exists at these coordinates. And it does this without us having to trust a single company. It basically solves the oracle problem for the question of where. And that brings us to the future. Because the most exciting, truly world-changing applications of blockchain probably aren't about creating new digital currencies. They're about building brand new systems of trust for things that really, truly matter.
In fact, if you look at where the real growth in blockchain is happening right now, it's not where you might think. It's in something called the safety client market. We're talking about governments, NGOs, healthcare systems, emergency services, basically any organization where having tamper-proof, completely auditable data isn't just nice, it's absolutely critical.
I mean, just think about the possibilities here. Verifying for sure where life-saving medicine came from. Creating land ownership records that can't be secretly changed to fight corruption. Making sure that humanitarian aid actually gets to the people who desperately need it. These are the kinds of applications where a secure digital record, anchored to a trusted map of the real world, could literally change everything.
This quote really just says it all, doesn't it? For blockchain to ever reach its true potential, to actually make a difference in the physical world, it has to have a foundation of truth to build on. Its greatest promise was never about creating a new kind of money. It's about providing an unbreakable, trustworthy record of what happens, when it happens, and most importantly, where it happens.
So, as we wrap this up and look to the future, the real question isn't how much is a digital coin worth. The real question is about what we value. If we have the power to create a permanent, verifiable record of reality, what's the most important truth we should use it to protect? Think about that.